You're listening to Were You Still Talking? Welcome to another episode of Were You Still Talking? Again, this is Joel Albrecht, and in my studio today I have Jaime Schwarz. After growing up surrounded by over 20 struggling artists, performers, and art historians in his family, and a decade-long career as a creative... I screwed up already. A creative director in NYC ad agencies, Jaime filed the world's first NFT patent, which is pretty amazing, a system and method for identifying virtual goods to advance the art industry's security, accessibility, expression, and equity. Now that this patent has been granted, Jaime is the founder of MRKD.art. I hope I pronounced that right. I'll ask him. The world's only digitally signed, multi-format, rights-managed, immutably-provenanced canvas. No more wallets, authentication, or marketplaces, just the art, its signature, and that signature's access to its authentication, promotion, and commercialization from any format on which it's presented. From art to music, Jaime is also launching MRKD.dj in collaboration with Public Enemy's Keith Shocklee to democratize automated rights management remixes. Jaime, great to have you on the show. Thanks so much for coming on.
My pleasure, and sorry for the giant mouthful of a bio there.
It really was, but you know, it's fun to practice my speaking. It's only good for me. So my first question is, how did you get the foresight, the massive foresight to patent an NFT?
I'm still really open to the chance that I'm not the world's first NFT patent. I'm waiting for somebody to say they patented before 2017. Just haven't seen it yet. I had just spent an entire 12 years in advertising, working across 100 brands for over a dozen agencies. There's no industry I hadn't touched. And I was a junior creative when social media started. And by this point, we were cresting over the centralized, you are the product, algorithmic madness that is social media that we didn't realize it was going to be at the time. So these new elements were starting to appear, and we were starting to say things like Web 2 and Web 3. And that felt weird. That felt tectonically shifting weird. To be fair, I come up with ideas 24/7, 365. That's just who I am. That's why I got into advertising in the first place. So this idea, like any other, one of a million. It's more that I happened to just have a breast cancer hackathon that I had run for a client. And one of the sponsors was a woman named Devora Grazer of Grazer Associates Kiss Patent. And her prize was some IP help for the winner. And we became fast friends and started talking about everything under the sun. This was Pokemon Go, crypto ICO craze times. And I asked, anybody patented anything in this kind of space where I want to own stuff again? We had now finally what were my CDs and my DVDs worth? Because the point of all of this, we're starting to stream things, everything. There's no ownership anymore. How do we get back to that? How do I buy something in Pokemon Go and take it to Grand Theft Auto? What's going to happen? And I'm in the brand space. I know this is going to be, what our product's going to have to do in this space. They're going to make it in there. Are we going to be stuck with an attention-based economy again? So that was the impetus. And what we basically decided on was this mark of authenticity as a way of saying we need to create some autonomy. Centralized platforms exist because before blockchain, you need object permanence. How's any product going to work if it's not licensed and held by a centralized platform like Meta or Snapchat or TikTok or whatever? So when we filed this quote unquote system and method for identifying virtual goods, I relied heavily on Devora's innate understanding of technology to not just make like a 3-pager that you might find, CryptoKicks, the next NFT patent, was a 3-pager. This is 40 pages with
Wow.
12
Wow.
figures. It was really covering the concept of what it means to say logos are there for authentication. What happens in digital space? How can a digital logo work on behalf of the object to do what it's supposed to represent that it does, which is, I am this object. I am the real thing. And what does that mean when you can actually access that logo and talk to it? And that was the beginning of it. That was what we filed, and also filed in stealth because we had no idea what was going to happen with something of that nature.
And we went, wow. So were you surprised when something with an NFT sold for millions of dollars, like many of us?
Yes and no.
Because some of us don't even, well, I understand, but I think many people don't even understand, well, like how, what? How does that work?
It was the same confusion as people had with Web 1.0 when people had a .com.
Right.
And they're like, oh, you have a website? Millions of dollars. Go. Pets.com. Here we are. Word.com. And, people were just throwing, there's no value behind it. It's just a delivery mechanism. It's just a tool. And an NFT is a receipt. It's not the art. It's a receipt. So I think I wrote something on LinkedIn to the effect of, if you're in the desert and a raindrop falls, that's the most precious thing there is. But when it starts to really rain, any drop loses value. Watch out for NFTs. Something to that effect I wrote. And everybody was mistaking like art and scarcity for, you can make anything and NFT it. So I just waited for that to die out. And luckily the patent got granted in March 2022, right after the bubble burst. So I wasn't tempted myself.
Oh, and that's a really good point. People do think you can just make anything. Yeah, just make anything NFT it. That's a very good point. Yeah.
To be fair, we were also stuck in our homes with trillions of dollars that pumped into a system and nowhere to spend it. So, there's a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's true.
Technically $2 trillion entered into an economy and left it within 18 months. That's never happened before and probably won't again for a while. But that, you can't just blame that on the ignorance of NFTs. That's also just a lot of dumb money following dumb money.
Right. Right. That is true. So what does brand therapy do? I think it sounds like a really amazing idea. And could you delve into that for just a little bit?
Well, I didn't just leave marketing behind when I got interested in Web3. In 2017, I also left the agency world behind, at least as a full-time job, because I had come to realize that marketing by itself was just creating hypocritical brands, because clients just ask you to say what they think the market wants to hear. And for the most part, you can only lie or fib or stretch the truth so far. It's not like they're saying something that's the opposite of what they are. But for the most part, the longer you market, the more you're stretching a distance between what you really are and what you're telling the market you are. Add in social media, where you have hyper targeting and you can kind of start being different brands to different people. And you get things like Bud Light being woke and not woke at the same time.
That was the most bizarre thing that's happened in our recent history. There's a lot of weird stuff, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, a brand divided can't stand.
Oh my God.
That's what happens. So, there's a lot of social media created a woke society. We were able to say, hey, social media, comment section, this is what I want you to be, brand. I'm saying it out loud. Customer service went to Twitter. There's no phone numbers anymore to call a place. You just yell into the void until you're loud enough that they say, oh yeah, sorry, here's your tickets back. Social media created this weird asynchronous parasocial relationship between people and brands. It was no longer a one-way street with TV and radio and print. So what was happening? Where were the brands going? They were getting more and more purposeful, more and more mission driven because the market said so. But were they actually becoming those things? No, they still had to answer to quarterly reports. So when I got stuck in that space and I left, I said, what is it that is going to work. Market shift doesn't work. Oh, wait, what's this thing? Product market fit. Those two things go together. Why is there no discipline for product market shift? Market shift, product shift, both disciplines, but product market shift, putting it together holistically, didn't exist. And because I had started an agency at that point to work with nonprofits and create a lens of revenue, I was finally in touch with the decision makers. And we had longer and longer conversations. And I was originally going to be a psychologist like my father before me. I was a psych and philosophy double major. And just turns out I went on a long road to get right back home because one day a client said after 2 hours, this feels like therapy. And I said, it's not therapy for you. It's therapy for the brand. What's brand therapy? And that was the light bulb moment. I had to figure that out. That was 2018. And it really just was tool building for the next 4 years, 2018 through 2022, of just building out skill stack, success stack, brand affinity, relationship metrics and meters, and what would your brand do testing, and creating the brand voice in the back of people's heads. So there was an insight that everybody was still working from their own perspective. Finally being among the decision makers instead of just at an agency, you could see the analogy I give is when you run with scissors, you hear your mom's voice. When you're running a company, you're running with scissors all the time. So whose voice should you hear? The chief purpose officer, the one employee who can never leave, the one ego that should stand above all others. Make that voice the loudest and strongest in any room, and you're no longer thinking myopically. And all stakeholders have that same voice in the back of their head as a voice of conscience. So you get stakeholder alignment. So it was a very psychological meets brand strategy approach until AI came along in 2022. And I had been working in chatbots since 2016. So I knew it was coming. I knew conversational media was coming. I just didn't know it was going to be Gen AI. That, Transformer, no idea. So when it did finally come, great. Brand therapy was ready for integrating AI in, for collective intelligence inside the company, and conversational media outside of the company. One brand, 2 ears, one mouth. Listening to both sides, speaking with the same voice to both.
Interesting. You also, I never thought about that this generation that's coming up now is going to be Gen AI. That's interesting.
Yeah, well, we say Gen Alpha, and now we call them Gen AI, and Gen Beta is starting. So we'll see what they get called. But Gen Z turned into Zoomers. So, I mean, these things just line up how they go.
Yeah, they just line up. They just go.
It is totally fair, just like astrology or whatever you want to say. Everybody's an individual. Nobody can be defined by the generation they're in, except, of course, they can. Because we all grow up with the same traumas. We grew up getting, the Challenger explosion. We were in school and everybody went like, okay, that happened. Put the flag half down. Let's go back to, and we associate with that. There's the 9/11 generation. There's the market crash generation. There's COVID generation. Like, these are things that we all went through at formative times, and that shapes us and defines us as a group. Beyond that, great, be an individual, but just recognize shared trauma does stuff.
Big time. I mean, I grew up in Vietnam and Nixon and all kinds of trauma, but then on the other side, the first landing of the moon, watching that as a kid,
we had 1 million scientists overnight.
Yeah. It is definitely a shared experience.
Yeah. Versus my kids who were all, 1 million YouTubers overnight.
Right. 1 billion.
Yeah.
It was 1 million a long time ago.
That's true.
Billions. That's a whole another thing. So you said you've been using chatbots since 2016. You now use AI chat a lot in your work, right?
Well, first of all, who doesn't these days? In some way, shape, or form. Oh, you do. You just don't know it.
Well, there's that. Yeah, there's that. I saw that you had posted something from a guy I follow. I think his name is Nick on TikTok, who's an AI really good. He is an AI. He teaches AI, and he talks about it all the time. And seems, and like yourself, seems to have no worries about it at all. Whereas myself, I am very
I'd say I have tons of worries. I'd say Nick
Okay.
has tons of worries. I think you're justified in having your worries. I just think that people like Nick and me say, if that's coming, what can we do about it?
That's
We're
more,
both
yeah,
building towards an answer.
it's what's here that we're ignoring, I guess, that I worry about, because it's not that will AI take over. Eventually, yes. It's more the what are people doing with AI that they're not saying when you're having this conversation.
AI is a tool. It's
Yeah.
the people who use it. Guns don't kill people, people kill people.
Well, this is
Social
what I'm
media doesn't
worried
destroy
about,
the world, the
because
algorithm
we
does.
all think, oh, we're the ones using this. Oh, this is my little AI chat here. But is that the reality when you're using
I
a
mean, there's so many
chatbot
layers
from,
to it.
yeah.
A chatbot's a decision tree. It's
Hmm.
just a programmed input-output machine and has no feeling and can't do anything beyond just you say something, it can give you one of three responses, the end. Generative AI is copying and then spitting out the average of all intelligence that it has read. So it's honestly just a very, very over glorified autocomplete that you would have in Google search, where you
Hmm.
start typing in something and it's that. I love this little cartoon of Wallace and Gromit, and Gromit's laying down the track in front of the train as fast as he can. Like that's GPT, one token at a time, just laying things out. It's not thinking, it's not talking. Uh, but where is it coming from? So we have a huge problem when it comes to, stealing IP. We have a huge problem when it comes to hallucinations and treating them as facts. We have a huge problem when it comes to the reliance, I should say, the cognitive offsetting that we're doing. Like nobody can read a
Right.
map anymore.
Oh
We know
gosh.
we can't do that
Yeah,
because we
that
have
blows my
Google Maps.
mind. And
Yeah,
many
so that's just not a
people,
skill.
yeah, I realize many people grew up not reading a map. I worked in LA as a driver when there was no maps. It was the Thomas guy. They must have had that in New York as well.
Sure,
And
of course.
you had to be really good, which is why when Google sends me somewhere that's wrong, I can go, that's not right. Look at the map. There's a map, right? And most people just don't quite get that. They turn on the AI feature now and
Yeah.
have it talk to
Well,
you.
it's just a different definition of a map. And the point is we've
Yes.
cognitively offloaded our spatial reasoning with maps and we've
Right.
replaced it with other things.
Right. Right.
You wonder how like Gen Z or Gen Alpha is able to be so mature about some things. And we were never like that when we were kids. They don't know how to do a lot of things we used to do when we were kids. They don't know how to function without like a parent around. Like it's just a different world. They are a lot more living in a digital space and cognitively thinking about concepts that we couldn't even fathom until we were in college. Okay, cool. Like that's reality now. And there's good and bad with that.
Hmm. Hmm.
So there's a certain thing that we just have to accept about change. But besides that, yeah, there's a lot of dangers. So the real point is, are we going to let the systems that have started to form already with AI uh, solidify and create invisible hands of markets the same way that social media created the attention, aka surveillance economy,
That's
and
that's where
created,
I'm at with AI.
FOMO and isolation and
You're
everything.
not. It's not ChatGPT. Isn't just on your. That's not something on your desktop that's helping you out. That is a massive corporation going, oh, what did you put in there today? Not literally, but it's not ignored.
Well, yes, literally,
But yeah, yes, literally as
a
well.
billion times over.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's metadata for you. So the thing is there, like you look at when social media started, it was a feed. And it was just whatever you were connected to, you could then see in a feed. But then they turned on the algorithm and they turned the feed into just enough of what you want to stick around. And then everything else is what they're paid to push in front of you because you're the product. So you look at AI and where's the money? Yeah, we're paying a pro account for tokens and everything, but what are they doing with the data? Where is it going? How is our data then getting recycled in? And the first thing to really go is it's true that when you make an AI, there's no IP. You can't own it. But if it's learning from IP, there's now no incentive to make IP. So we not only have an AI that puts us in the middle, the mid, to use the kids' term, but we stopped getting incentivized to create new. And we're on the cusp of moving, or we can be with NFTs, from a service economy to an IP economy, which we have to do now to make up for what AI is destroying.
Right, right. Yeah, that pretty much says it right there. Let me ask you a little bit. Now, this is something I have been was a musician for like 35 years. I'm not really anymore, but so I dealt with copywriting quite a bit. And now I do an online Twitch stream where I fly airplanes and play music. And people are always wondering why I'm not playing the latest rock and roll song on this live stream. And for a while I tried to explain it, and then I went, man, people just don't understand copywriting kind of at all. So I don't know if there's a question here or not, but I wonder, I guess, do you think there's any place where that happened? Because it seemed like people understood it when I was younger, and I see a lot of people complaining about, these big record labels, not wanting to let us play music, not wanting to let us play music or any music we want at any time, anywhere. Not realizing that really the people protected by copyrights are the smaller artists. I mean, that's who gains the most, is usually it's people who are smaller and don't want their music stolen from them. And
you'd think that would be the way.
Yeah,
it's the way it should be, I should say.
I guess it's the way it should be. Yeah, and
Well, it's a perfect example of an IP economy, and no economy comes out of nowhere. Capitalism didn't come out of nothing. It was mercantilism before that. But go back that far. Go through these things. What was the first kind of music that was ever sold? Sheet music.
Yeah.
You go in the late 1800s, sheet music was what was sold. It was pieces of paper with notes on them, and then you would have that, and you can play it on your own piano at home or whatever. And then came the phonograph, and now we had media on a physical good, and you would buy the physical good, and that was the same thing all the way through CDs. So we had a century of paying for the use of an IP by paying for a physical house to hold what you were playing. But then we had MP3s, and you can copy and paste something. And we went from bootlegging, where, hey, look, we made mixtapes. I would sit on Z100 in the middle of the night and like, wait, here it comes. Rhythm is a dancer. Click and get it. And I'm like, I got it. Now I'm going to use this on, give this to a girl or whatever it is. And we would make mixtapes and whatever. And that was fine because it was like niche, and it was a thing that was really hard to do. And you needed a professional setup to do anything beyond that. But now we could just Napster, LimeWire, all those. And the music industry literally fell apart overnight. Like, okay, fine, Metallica is going to like raise some sort of hell about it. But, why would I pay for music when I don't have to?
Right.
So what actually fixed that was not the suing, because like Sony was like suing 5-year-old girls for downloading, a Britney Spears song. It's like, what are you doing? It was iTunes. It was digitally rights managed music. You can buy this song for 99 cents, and you could play it on 5 devices, and that 99 cents is what pays for that. And we didn't have to deal with viruses, and it was simplified. And of course, we didn't want to get sued. So we ended in that direction until the streaming model showed up, which, now artists are getting paid 0.0003 cents for a song. And then, of course, paying their agent and manager, blah, blah, blah. Now, to be fair, music rights are very complicated. There's performance rights, there's the writing rights, and then there's the pressing rights. On top of everybody else, you can then split, how many people make a song and whatever. But the way it works today is we've advanced music so much into the digital realm, thanks to synths and mods and all that stuff, that the most popular instrument is sampling other songs.
Oh, right.
So, you're still singing, you're still adding your own stuff, but you're grabbing a lot. And that's all IP too. Now the instruments have IP. So it's really complicated. And so you get things like Dua Lipa, where she'll pay 7 different artists for music in one song and still get sued by 3 others.
Well,
Because
it's
we're starting to
interesting.
like hit limits.
Yeah, but what you're talking about, that was yesterday. Because today now you
Yeah.
can make your own music. I have a real sort of, what's the word? I have a real resistance to the AI music makers because, I come from working really hard to get a song made,
Yeah.
and even harder to record it and get it to listenable. And now, this someone who works with me on my live Twitch account has just made all these AI songs. He just makes them in seconds, and here, you can have this. This is yours, no problem. And I'm like, oh man, I hate them.
Yeah.
But they're okay.
But they're okay.
But I
They're
mean,
mid.
you
AI
made
is
them.
mid.
Yeah, it's mid. But he did. He can't play. The other side of it was he can't play anything,
Right.
and was able to express himself in this way. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
There's got to be a middle ground where you're not automating away intelligence.
Right.
You're just augmenting your own.
Yes.
And I'm fine with that. It's just, where's it coming from? So what's been shocking, just straight up shocking to me during the age of AI is we went through this with Napster. We were given all the warning signs. And then when did the New York Times finally sue? And also they're suing while using generative AI themselves. What's going? Sony and BMG are just suing now for music. Sam Altman's in front of Trump right now, this past week, saying, "Hey, could we just copy all TV shows and movies and be okay with that? Because we're not copying, we're just learning from." No, you're not. We've seen the Gen AI. We know what the pictures look like. You can see Getty image word marks.
Oh, right. You can see the watermarks on them. Oh, my God. That's right.
That's straight up like it's copying just down to pixel level. That doesn't make it okay. So, I'm certainly working on trying to find ways to create rights managed IP libraries so you can generate and pay for it. And then the same way that you would pay Spotify for a monthly fee or amount of tokens or whatever, and then use that to pay for the royalties of what you're making off of. That's okay. That's what the technology would be for anybody who allows for it. And then you can have a marked piece of no IP AI that says, hey, at least I paid for this, and now I've got a wrapper of provenance around it so I can continually add more value to it. Do what music I want with it. So we've got to get to that place. And it just matters on how much IP behemoths are going to stand up, defend, and keep the wall up until that tech comes along, or roll over and we'll see what laws get passed or not. And how much harder it's going to be for the legitimate platforms to get up and running and create a better invisible hand of the market.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good. It sounds like one solution because I think they're already at a place where you can create a likeness of someone. I mean, someone could do this podcast digitally, put in all the information, use my picture and your picture, and make this. And we were probably the only ones that would know that wasn't us.
To be fair, what you'd be talking about, like this was done. I heard a few podcasts last year where it was like the podcaster and a fake Sam Altman having a conversation, and it was basically felt like what Sam Altman would have said, except it wasn't him.
Right.
But if you authorize an AI version of yourself and it's a digital twin of you, and you're allowing it, okay, that's different. That's, you have rights and you are allowed to sell your rights away. But we've gotten too conditioned from social media to just hand over our ID, our data to people because of a little thing that we get for it, because we never realized the value of it before we gave it away. But if we could get back to that, because there are people in the world who do value their IP, creators like yourself, musicians, artists, creators who have IP value and live off of it. And if we can get that kind of thing structured so that we can realize all the different IP values that everybody has among themselves, we can really push forward outside of a late stage conspicuous consumer society that we live in now into an early stage co-creation society.
Oh, that's a nice dream. That's a very nice dream.
Got to dream it before it can build it.
It's true. You absolutely do. No, I love hearing concepts like that, because I'm in this Like where are we going from here? Where are we going from here? Kind of space. So that is a nice dream. That's a really nice dream.
Well, it's possible. Like we've
It
technically
is.
figured
Yeah.
it out. We just
Yeah.
have to create the culture.
Right. Right. 100%.
And music's been
So
leading the way for years with this. That's what sampling is. Standing on top of other people's IP, legitimately paying for it, and making new value yourself with the songs you create.
yeah, but it did take a second. It did take a couple of lawsuits for people to figure out, oh, I'll just pay for it. It'll be much easier.
Way more than a couple lawsuits, but
yeah.
it's there.
Yeah. I mean, some of that, yeah. So so your next, have you started the musical part of Marked?
In a little bit of a sense, yes. So we do have Keith Shocklee from the Bomb Squad and Public Enemy. He's the front man. He's our Ryan Reynolds, shall we say.
Yeah.
The thing that I love about him being the face of the brand is that he has been doing this since the 80s. And remixing and sampling was just getting going then. And he's been doing it since then. And I like to call him your favorite DJ's favorite DJ. What he does, DJs follow. He's always on the forefront with that kind of stuff. And we're up in the sense that we have an alpha player, we have a storage base, we have the blockchain. You can technically already buy your .dj name. So we have a very simple blockchain that's a name chain for both art and DJ. But that just means that we are going to bring back the scarcity of the media. So a record can be anything now. These are right here. These are toy records, but there's an NFC chip in there. So I can just tap directly. And I'm sorry for the podcasters who are listening. Just put my phone to it. And what happens, you get this little thing right on the top there, and I'm going to tap it. And that's sending me directly to MRKD.dj. But it could send me directly to whatever the album is.
Mm-hmm.
And the point would be, if I own this album, then I can unlimited play it. Or if you want it, you can buy it from me and I get a copy of it and I'll get an affiliate fee for it. I'm wearing a Where to Earn shirt right now. This is a piece of art from the VFA gallery. This is a derivative sweater. So this is the art that's hanging. But right here, there's an NFC chip right here. And if you tapped that and opened it up, you'd be able to buy the same sweater from the same store and I'd get an affiliate fee for it.
Nice.
That's co-creation. That's prosumerism.
This is all on YouTube. If you're listening and you're wondering what he's talking about, you can go check the video.
And to be fair, this is New York Culture Club, which is a collaborator with Marked, and the VFA Gallery down in Worcester and Soho, it's a great gallery. We're going to be doing a fun, a few events in June down there when the Fanatics Con happens. They're going to do a sports man cave in the basement of the gallery, and there's going to be some great sports themed art down there.
Oh, nice. So how did you get Keith Shocklee involved in this? Did he just somebody?
I'm not the cool one. While I was in advertising, I worked with a producer named Hallie Hopkins, and Hallie's been working with Keith since over a decade. And we just stayed in contact since the advertising days, and we bring up our startups to each other. And then when MRKD.dj kind of came up, she's like, "Can I tell you about Keith Shocklee?" What do you mean?
Oh, nice.
And it was one of those things, like, I didn't know that whole side of her life. And she introduced me, and, like, it's not just Keith, like his brother Hank and Chuck D and Flavor Flav. It's like, Public Enemy is a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But, Keith is the DJ. And he's the one who's got, like, is the one who's designing with JBL and Panasonic spin tables. And, like, what is it? Where can vinyl go? Where can hi-fi go? And so for us to bring a back end to him that actually takes it to the next level and provides more equity, more ownership, more co-creation, more collaboration, more expression. So when he's performing, we're able to have, like, we're going to do a New York Tech Week on June 6th at Baker Falls where he plays. And we're not just going to record his remix. We're going to drop the album that night.
Oh, nice.
with the samples
Nice.
and splits. So when you own the record, you've got the samples. You can remix them how you want. And if you want to resell it, all the rights are included automatically in it. And we won't just be recording the music, we'll spatially record the party. So you can replay the party in a metaverse and enjoy with a completely different audience.
Wow. Crazy. Crazy. That is,
Multi-reality art.
yeah. And I mean, it's amazing more people aren't doing more with that, honestly.
Well, to be fair, what we're doing is patented.
Well, of course it is. Well, all they got to do is pay you a fee, right?
Well, that's why I'm making as many products as I can so I can legitimately be out there in the market in the right way. I'm not. I'm not out there to sit or what do they say? Just squat on a patent. You know,
Right. That's good.
This is about pushing a co-creation economy, moving to an open spatial web.
Well, yeah. Talk a little bit more about that. What is your vision there? What is an open spatial web? I love the term. It sounds amazing somehow.
So Web3 for me is four different qualities. AI, which is really the user experience. We're going to be moving into a conversational user experience, as well as all the backend stuff we can do. XR, which is augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, and that's the spatial side of things. So you can just be walking through a website. Second Life is a walkthrough website, or you can be in Decentraland, which is a fully decentralized website, or you can Better Horizons, and you can put these things on and go talk to a bunch of people and play basketball or whatever you want to do. It's just, Facebook owns that. As we move into a spatial web, are we going to do social media all over again? I consider social media, a centralized social media platform, to be a fiefdom. Who owns everything? The platform.
Right.
All those likes, influencers that they make millions of dollars, those are handles and likes and comments that are not owned by them. They're just temporarily possessed.
As someone who does stuff on social media, well, I mean, I put this up on social media. I do a live Twitch thing, which is mainly for the entertainment of myself and the other few people who are flying along in a flight simulator. But I occasionally read the privacy policies. Do you think anyone else does that?
Hell no. They experience the consequences
they
of
don't
those.
Read it. They're literally like, I mean, and I'm having the same problem. There's been a push to get off certain platforms like Facebook and Instagram, etc. And I'm surprised how hard it is. I took a phone detox just to set my phone down. Mainly, it was to get off social media, but I had to do it. I had to set my phone where I wasn't picking it up and restrict it to a couple times a day, only use it for phone calls and actual things that I might need to do. And I couldn't believe how tough that was. So
we don't change because something sucks. We change because there's an alternative we prefer.
Well, that's true. That's true. But it's amazing how, what's the word? How incredibly hooked they've gotten us on really what's really a bad.
There was a lot of good. There was a lot of good.
There was a lot.
And we can point to that at the beginning when Web 2 was building on top of Web 1.0 ethos. Web 1 was read only. Web 2 is read write. And there's a back and forth. But it's who owned music on Twitter? It's Musk's now. He took it away because he can. We're going to take down your post. Why? Because you broke our terms of service. Okay. If you're going to be a host with rules and you can kick me out because this is your space, fine. But I can take my stuff with me, can't I? No. And that's the thing. No. You built up a huge user base. You built up a lot of experience and likes and all those things that people gave you. And those interaction points are not yours. They're Amazon's, who owns Twitch. So if you look at it through that lens, NFTs are now capable. And to be fair, we're not just using an NFT. We've created what we call a grouped asset NFT. Just like, single cell life didn't create a lot of evolution. It took multicellular life for that to happen. We have multiple NFTs that are all specialized, working and being basically owned by a master NFT. And that primary NFT can be an artist's signature, it could be a logo. That's where the patent comes in.
Hmm.
But then they're all doing the job in some way, shape, or form of giving the object, the art, whatever it is, the media, autonomy. So it's not just, sure, we can be a physical and a digital good. It's we'll hold our rights. We'll have smart contracts that act on those rights. We won't do anything our creators said we can't do, no matter who owns us moving forward. And we'll hold our likes and our comments. And we'll create a share button that'll keep you on chain because we'll give you an affiliate fee for sharing. And we have our own email address so we can have our own social media account. Because when I sell that object, all of that stuff has to go with it. Those are only values if they're owned by the object.
Oh, but here's a totally non sequitur. How many social media? No, I mean, how many email addresses do you have?
9.
Yeah, okay. I thought so.
I've got my Gmail account. I've got brandtherapy.coach. I've got mark.art. I've got mark.dj. Parallel Worlds, Teamflow Institute, XRSI, CCNY, probably another couple I'm not thinking of.
Yeah, I have a few that I forget that I have. But I know it's good. It's good to have more than, it's good to have several.
It gets complicated. But
it gets complicated, but
it's all in one place.
Yeah.
I need AI to put it all together.
Oh, that's impossible. That'll never happen. You've got kids. I know you said you have kids in the house.
Yeah, Miles turned 14 on the 8th, and Charlie turned 11 yesterday.
So it seems like a really unique set of problems in today's world, raising a 12 and a 14-year-old compared to when I was 12 and 14.
Sure.
How do you deal with that? Do you go to therapists? Did they get
First of
phones
all,
when
yes,
they were 5 years old? You do? Okay.
I'm the son
Right
of
on.
an amazing psychologist. Of course, I go to therapy.
There you
I go to
go, there you
therapy
go.
as much as I possibly can. It's hygiene.
Uh-huh.
And brand therapy is one of those things, wouldn't do it otherwise. Kids today have their own challenges, and we had our own challenges. And I think it's important to not create a nostalgia about the way things used to be. There's a lot of shit that we had to deal with that they don't. And there's a lot of shit that they have to deal with that we didn't. Okay. And that's the way it's always been. So what can we learn from the past, and what do we have to invent to deal with the present? So of course, one of Charlie's presents was a Fortnite controller for his Switch. Just like I got a Nintendo and you had an Atari. So like not a big deal. What's different? Charlie's spending more time in Fortnite than I did. I would have friends over and we would play a 2-player game. He's playing with 7 different kids across town that he all knows, not strangers. So I know not to do that. But he's playing with all the friends that he knows, and he's having play dates virtually. Okay, he's still socializing.
Right.
Is that going to be the only thing? Fortnite has become the new Facebook. We have to recognize that.
Yeah.
We have to recognize he's spending more time in that space, so it makes sense that Gen Alpha pays more for their digital clothing than they do for their physical clothing. We're not going backwards with that. It's only going to be, as Alpha grows up and Beta comes after them, they'll all be paying more for their digital clothing than their physical clothing. Physical clothing isn't going to go anywhere, but maybe it'll turn into just, really comfortable gray sweatpants that we'll all wear like in Her, and then we'll have augmented reality over it.
Like in Her, or like in from 2020 to 2022. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Good
pajamas.
pajamas.
Very, very comfortable. Yeah. Which I don't know, I was fine with. I'm still fine with. Yeah, when I was a kid, we went outside. That was what our parents said. Go outside and play. There was
exactly.
nothing. Yeah, there was no
latchkey
digital.
kids, and now we turned that horrible thing of like kids didn't care, nobody cared about us, and we took care of ourselves into that was a utopia, and we're only stable because of it. And it's like you can go overboard in any direction,
right?
So it's more just what's important. What do they value? Are they able to spend time with themselves? Can they be bored and do something? Are they polite to people? I mean, you look at what happened when Alexa really hit the market. Kids of that generation became ruder. Why? Because they learned how to just command from a machine.
Right.
Not,
Right.
please and thank you. There's consequences to things.
Yeah.
Like one of the very first product developments I did was for House of Ruth, where I said, change the name of your Amazon Smile account on Alexa to the swear jar. And then whenever you curse in the house, you can just say, Alexa, make a donation to the swear jar. And then you'd be lowering verbal abuse in your household while ending physical abuse elsewhere. And that was just using the system in a different way to get the opposite result. So, it's up to us to be inventive and to think about what we agree with and don't agree with and see the consequences for what they are. And don't let an invisible hand that's sending you in a direction you don't want to go do that. Invent your way out of it.
Yeah, that's a really wonderful idea, because I guess that's what I really worry about with AI, is that it can send us in directions we don't want to go. It maybe already has.
Yeah, for sure. There's 25% of Gen Z best friend is character AI. An AI that they made up that is their ideal version of something they want to talk to, because people are difficult.
Right. And I mean more about how, when you're having conversations with it and it's scraping the internet, and then it goes the other way, and it basically finds out everything you like and don't like, then how much can it direct you now, and how much can it direct you in 45 minutes? And
do you remember, I want to say 15, 20 years ago, when there was a teenager who was getting ads from Target for pregnancy products, and the dad flipped out because he's like, why are you sending my daughters? And Target, the data had known she was pregnant before before the dad did.
Oh my gosh.
Because it is like, people who buy this.
Right.
And that was it.
Right.
So what did Target do to fix that? They didn't stop collecting data. They just learned that in the freestanding inserts that they would put in there, to mix in a bunch of stuff for sale with it. So it didn't feel like you were being tracked. It was just the one ad you wanted to see among a sea of stuff you didn't. And now it feels like you're not being tracked anymore. That was before smartphones.
Right.
And then everybody goes, the smartphone has a microphone in it. It doesn't. It knows you that well. It doesn't need a microphone.
That's a really good point. I mean, the other side of it, yes, it does have a microphone, and the fact that they're saying they turn it on, they doesn't listen to everything is ridiculous, because you can't use Siri if it's not listening to everything, and you can't use.
No, that's not fair. It really doesn't. Although, also to be fair, Amazon is turning on listening on its Alexa Plus on March 28th. So from now on, if you use an Alexa after March 28th, it will be recording you. And Facebook was doing the same thing. It's a terms of service.
Exactly. I was going to say that goes right back to, did you read that policy they sent you? Because they sent me that in an email. So they sent an email that said that, and I was like, well, I don't use Alexa, so no worries.
Look, that's why we charge for having your blockchain name, and we have a transaction fee, because now you're not the product anymore.
And that's such a better way to do it. That is
it's the cost of not being the product.
Right. Because I guess that's what people don't realize, is that you are the product. That's what social media is about.
Because it's an attention economy.
Bizarre. Yeah. It's a bizarre turn, but it's taken a while. And
it's the laziness and lack of imagination of those companies that are not trying to find other lines of revenue and kowtowing to quarterly revenue.
Right.
That's it. It's not any more evil than that. Google said, we're not going to be evil. They meant it. And then they bought DoubleClick. What do you think was going to happen? Like, you can only stall gravity. You can't stop it. And if gravity is, you are the product, then it's going to happen. The surveillance economy happens.
Right. I guess that's my problem, is the economy based on... I'm just not a very good capitalist. That's all there is to it. I'm not sold on everything.
Capitalism sucks, except it's the best thing there is besides everything else. As you know, like democracy's horrible except for everything else. It's one of
Right.
those things where, we took all, there were 2 billion people in the world, and now there are 8 billion people in the world, and 2 billion people have poverty as opposed to 90%. But we're only measuring GDP. We're not measuring happiness or sanity or familiarity or polity, the things that are all part of humanness too. And so NFTs and IoT and sentiment analysis and all these things, if used properly, means we can actually measure things that matter more. And if we only change what we can measure, then fine. Let's make sure that you own your data. Let's make sure that you are aware of what's being measured. And then let's value it.
And
That's what the co-creation economy is.
right. Yeah, and that's a big thing. Let's value it. It's interesting because I read almost every year a new article comes out with data from 20 years ago about how the happiest areas of the world are still the poorest. And like every year I read this, it's just like, because they're not basing their happiness on how poor they are. They don't really know they're poor. They don't necessarily, like, I forget that I'm not rich often because it doesn't matter so much to me. I'm not really.
Oh, I'd be happy too if I were right by the beach.
Yes. I thought I would use AI to make my background. I also hadn't opened Zoom in a little bit and found their AI creation tool for making your background. It's like, oh, this is kind of fun. And it comes out like pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah, not bad at all. Anyway, where was I? I was...
You wanted to dive deeper into economics, I think. But I don't know where you
well,
want to
just
go.
just that the economy. I mean, that's the whole drive that is being pushed so hard in our world, is that the more money you make and the more money your stocks make, if you have stocks, which is a not as big a percentage of the world as economists want us to think. But that stock market economy, I think, is dangerous. I think it's dangerous, and it's hurt people. So,
It has a place, and it can't be everything. And
right.
when we look at we say the Dow, which is a part of the stock market, which is a part of the economy, which is a part of what we measure.
Yeah.
Like it's a slice of a slice of a slice of a slice, and we call it everything. And we
And
do this
since
with money in general.
with what and you
Money's a value holder.
Yes.
That's it.
And why did they create the stock market in the first place?
Well, there's a
I
few
figured
reasons.
you would have an answer to this. Most people don't
Well, the New York
remember.
Stock Exchange was one of my clients when I was at an ad agency.
Oh, wow.
Our tagline was "Exchange More."
I bet.
So the thing about the stock exchange, it goes back to mercantilism and it goes to capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
When the governments of the world, the monarchs, the kings of the world were like, go explore. We want to go colonize. They had to say, we need a company to go control stuff because we can't do it ourselves. So you get the East India Bay Company and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And they started building riches. And then they had this capital and they were able to invest it in, which they couldn't do in the first place. They didn't have capital from the royalty. It was like, what was Christopher Columbus doing? He was asking a bunch of kings for money.
Right. Right.
He's Italian. Where did he go? This is for Spain because they're the ones that paid me. So you have this capital going where it's in investing in things that are bigger than we can do on our own. How can I own a house, a mortgage? I need other people's money to do things with. So making money work for you is a very complicated thing, and it takes a store of value in the first place. We go from like wheat to representing wheat on a piece of paper to creating a coin to having it be anchored to gold to have it being a fiat, blah blah blah. The point there is once values are able to be exchanged on that level, you end up with being able to create bigger things than you can do on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a wonderful thing. That means we can build spaceships, we can build homes, and people can actually attain bigger wealth and values and possibilities and create the Sistine Chapel or whatever because we're allowing values to store in larger and larger amounts. Now, of course, once that becomes hoarding,
that
that's the other side of it.
Yeah, that's where we have a problem. And it also became, I think this happened probably more in the 80s, but it was happening before that, where it became money for the sake of making money. Nothing mattered except the price of your stock, which is where we are now with a lot of these major organizations. And a lot of, there's one side of the world says, what's the problem with billionaires? And the other side of the world is, we hate billionaires. I really have no problem with billionaires, but I would rather see them reinvest the money, which is why they got the billions. I mean,
right, but that's
the idea of getting billions is to reinvest it.
That's what capitalism is. They do reinvest it.
Yeah.
Their money's making money. The problem is they have so much of it that they're looking for things to put it into. That's where we get the bubbles. And we're getting it right now with private equity.
Right.
So, we're going to have a 2008 crash again, and it's going to be across the entire economy. But that's a conversation for another podcast.
Well, it's not we're not the only one seeing that. You're not the only one that has mentioned that. Only one that's mentioned that on this podcast. But,
how much was the '08 crash talked about in '07? I'll put it that way.
Yeah, not at all.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all. I didn't know what it was until I watched that. What was the movie called? The Big Short.
The Long Short.
The Big Short was like, this is explaining that to me. And I don't quite get it, but I'm closer.
So in the same way that we had credit default swaps, where it was let's hide debt so that people are investing in bad things. Right now we have private equity borrowing millions of dollars to buy corporations that they then give that debt to. So even like Joann's, which just went bankrupt, 97% of those stores were profitable. How did they go out of business? They had to hold the debt of the private equity that paid for them in the first place. So private equity only comes in and then lays the debt on them and says, let's see if you can survive this debt. We maybe create more efficiency, which sometimes happens, but do they survive the debt? Because that's just private equity coming in and taking that money. So what did they do with that debt? Where does that debt come from? That was the bank giving that money to the private equity that then gave it to the owners of the company that then laid that debt on them. Well, the bank turns that debt around, packages it, and sells it to, the pensions of the world.
Right.
And the pensions are getting abnormally high returns on a private equity debt because keep building a pyramid scheme, it keeps growing for a while. And the problem with that also is you have to keep buying more markets. This is an insatiable thing. So once Joann's is bankrupt, where does private equity go from here? You got to go make more returns somewhere else. And so they keep buying up. And eventually you've got the entire economy under private equity. And you're hearing the stories, they're not getting less numerous. They're getting more of companies getting bought out by private equity, of chains getting bought out. So it's just growing.
Well, and also there wasn't really any changes after 2008. There was a lot of talk.
Dodd-Frank is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been detoothed, or whatever the term is, a little bit. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau existed until this year.
This year? What the heck happened this year?
Exists.
How bizarre.
Technically, it still exists.
Yeah, technically.
Right. So
I'm more worried about
those things are
things.
Real, and and there's other things like that. But all the years that happened before that, we let the banks congeal. We let them do more than just borrow at 3% and sell at 6%.
Right.
And where does that go? Money doing money things.
I kind of when I see these stories about, wow, this is the record stock market growth for however many years, in the back of my mind I'm going, well, that means something. It doesn't just grow exponentially forever. That's not how it works.
No, but we do have legitimate bubbles. Like to be fair, there's things like, where did the internet come from? Quest built like billions of dollars worth of cable across the country that gave us the internet. They went bankrupt because they couldn't actually convert that into the value. They were the first in, and the capital, they bet and they lost. But then we had the infrastructure. And I'm not saying that's in and of itself the only way, but I'm saying we have to recognize silver linings, and that nothing's black and white, and that there's real benefits to capital and all those different kinds of things. but just take those and all the grains of salt that come with it and really just holistically see the whole picture.
I really appreciate that point of view because I don't know. I'm not a capitalist. I'm not a economist. So and I think you have to study economy to understand it anytime, but especially in this world where there's kind of a lot of screaming back and forth.
Sure. And there's stonks and all those, and hodl and all those other things. And the point is it's speculation and, is there value there or not? And you have to make a judge of that and also say things like, look, I bought Facebook at 21 and then sold it at 27. Oops. But I also bought Tesla at 50 and then sold it at 900. Cool. But that was also like, you saw that bubble.
Congratulations, by the way.
But what I'm saying is like, I still, I bought Delta after COVID thinking like, oh, that'll shoot through the roof now. And down. But playing the market is different from, investing across the market. And it is healthy to have an ETF, and it's healthy for people in general to invest in the economy.
Right. Yeah.
And, and you can, as somebody who has buffer that can invest to make bets on things and say, I believe in this. And that's a great thing. That's how startups get going. And I rely on angels to tell me, I believe in you and you can make this happen, to fund a startup. Or Kickstarter, for God's sakes. Everybody can do something when they want to bet on something, but don't make that, your stable how you make money.
Right. Yeah. Well, that was what you said there. It's different playing the stock market than investing in the stock market. That is a very true statement.
Right.
Yeah. It really helps to know that. Well, listen.
It's annoying that the answers are usually boring.
It's true. And that's why people don't seek them out, because they get very boring. Like the investment book I have is really, really thick, but it's in the first chapter that it describes what you just said, the very first chapter. Read this book. It's very important, but just know this, you can't play the market unless you want to gamble. If you want to gamble, that's cool. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So listen, I think I'm going to wrap it up for you because I know that we've got a life outside of this. I just want to thank you so much for coming on.
Oh my God, we have a life outside.
I have to fix a door for my radioactive cat. For instance,
I've got grass seed I've got to go plant before it gets too warm.
Oh, how nice! Oh my gosh, we're a ways from that. Actually, now would be a good time, but it's not getting warm yet. Any day now. Anyway, thank you so much. I'm going to say you've been listening to Were You Still Talking? This has been Jaime Schwarz and Joel Albrecht talking about marketing.
What did we talk about?
What did we talk? Kinds of stuff.
Were we still talking?
I believe we were. It's been an amazing conversation. If you're just coming in now, go back and listen to the rest. All the links will be in the description, which I don't know if anyone reads. Let me know. Put a like on wherever you're watching it. Even comment. That'd be great. And so great to have you here. It's been a really nice conversation. And thanks for getting in touch. And we'll see you next time. Actually, we'll have another podcast coming out very soon, right? About a week after this one. So be good to each other and be good to yourselves.